I've heard people saying, as for me, I was never converted by anyone. Never listened to any tape. There was no preacher, no evangelist. I just decided to give my life to Jesus. My brother, that's impossible. Without God speaking to you, it's impossible for a person to come to repentance. You will never be born again unless there is a word that has said something to you. God speaks to people. Even if there wasn't a person, still there was a voice. God spoke to you. He can do that by himself. If no one ever preached to you, it's amazing. And you say no one has ever preached to you. Where were you? Where are you staying? Where you can say you have never had a sermon. No one contributed to your conversion. Is that true? I will not believe that. Because even when you decided to give your life to Jesus, which Jesus? Who told you about Jesus? Who told you about that man? Who gave you that name? You must have read from somewhere. And there is someone who wrote it down for you to know that there is Jesus out there. And you responded to that man's sermon. You just don't want to acknowledge that there is a person who contributed to your conversion. So most people, let's say even if there was no Bible, because you read it from the Bible, right? You read it from the Bible. And there were so many people as you were growing up that were advising you to give your life to Jesus. You didn't want. But at some point you said, now I'm deciding on my own. Now I want to get born again. No. It's as a result of many sermons that you were hearing. Or let's say there was no one who ever spoke to you about that. But still there is a voice. God spoke to you. Because without a voice, when God doesn't speak to you, you don't feel any need for any change. So if you say that you just thought about it by yourself, it's simply because you are not aware, you are not paying attention to how God is speaking to you. God is speaking to you, but you're not hearing what he's saying. You don't know it is God talking to you. You simply don't know that it is God talking to you. So why am I talking about that? I'm trying to prove a point. That you have once heard God. That's why you are born again. So the next thing that you are going to hear from God is not the first word. It's not the first thing. At least we have to have a starting point. For you to appreciate that, for you to be here, to be as born again as you are, it is as a result of a response to the voice of God. God spoke to you. There was a time when God spoke to you. Because without his voice, you can't be born again. You responded. So can you try now to remember? Because that's not the voice that you want. Now, you are looking for another one. Because God already has spoken to you. For you to surrender your life like this, he spoke to you. If I ask him now, is there any person here truly born again that you have never spoken to? He will tell me it's impossible. So all of us here, if you are truly born again, can you believe it? That you have once heard the voice of God. But you can't describe it. That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. And you wouldn't want even to use that voice to prophesy with that one. You need a different one. Because that one, you're not sure. You're not confident, and yet it brought you to where you are now. You are born again as a result of that word. But to prophesy, you need another one that you think is superior to the one that brought you to Christ. What you're looking for is noise. Maybe some of you, maybe your background is affecting you. Maybe you have been very notorious at school and you think God is a noise maker. God doesn't make noise. Yeah. When all that you can do is to hear the spoken word, what God has said, there is a danger. You have to have that ability to hear what God has said and to hear what God is saying and to also hear what God is going to say. You have to combine the three. Whether the word comes to you or the voice or the sound or the mood, when God says it, hear it now as if God is saying it now, and yet He already said it. It's you see. Okay, let me do this. I want you to see something here. You know what my spirit nowadays is just dwelling around. I've given you already this chapter some few days ago, Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse number 1. That's where my spirit is hovering upon these days. Because there I discovered that there is grace to interpret a thing. Grace to interpret a thing. There is grace to interpret a thing. But you see now, when God when does God decide to show you something? Is there a moment when God says, I want to show him something? This girl, I want to show her something.
Thank you for watching Minister's Material. Join us again next time for yet another inspirational teaching from Prophet Emmanuel Makandiwa.